I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Are y'all ready for some consciousness programming? Okay, this is part 4 in the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch. We're doing key 1-0-5 on pages 43 to 50. So first, let me say hi to some people. Hi, Adric. He says it's on. And hashtag PPW for Pivot Point Wednesday. I have a hair sticking out. That's going to bug me. Nina says, hi, favorite auntie. Armando is here. Peace to you as well. And Adric says, let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to read the key first. So the key to our astrophysical time zones is the 3 and 1 alignment of consciousness forces in the Great Pyramid with the 12 and 1 energies of time warp pyramids centered and controlled by the many and 1 throne energies of Orionis and the Pleiades. Whew. Now, like we've always done, or what we've done, starting with the second show, was we will continue using Disney's TVA at this point. At some point, we'll get a little farther out into the Marvel sphere and the multiverse. But for now, we're sticking with Disney's TVA as a tool for making Hertog's book not soteric. So I'll read the key. I'll say a little bit about it, and we'll use Loki. So the fascinating thing about this key is that it deals with that evolution of consciousness that he talks about, right? And kind of more of the role of the higher intelligences, right? Or we've talked about like the people who work at the TVA. This is very similar to these higher intelligences that he's talking about. Yes, Loki continues, Adric. Okay, so I'm going to read the key. There are some, I didn't get the pictures put up. This is what happens when I do this on a day I work. But there are some images. I will hold it up and show you. It's not the best. It's a little janky, but it's okay. Now, he's got a little message here at the bottom where he says the original information in key 105:6, which I think is this one, relating to the specific alignment between the Great Pyramid and the Belt of Orion, has been confirmed by the recomposition of ancient stellar maps generated from extensive computer research. So he's got this little message there at the bottom for us. Adrian is here. He says, let's go. Okay, so I'm going to read his explanation of the key. I'll show you the images, and then we'll try to make sense of it. Okay, so this key is speaking directly of consciousness programming. It is telling us that consciousness programming is connected with the Great Pyramid, which is referred to in the mystical scriptures of the ancient Near East as the foundation stone. The consciousness forces of the Great Pyramid are cued with specific star points, which are working with planetary time warp areas. In order to understand what time warp areas represent, we have to understand the time warp fields as a type of energy pyramid. First, we must look at the geophysical time warps of the Earth with its meridians drawn according to the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. We note that these areas of the Earth's magnetic field, as well as the solar flares caused by the sun's celestial movement, meet at certain energy points or vortices. What is not shown on mappings of the vortex Jah, it's all one word, VORTEXJAH, vortex Jah, of time warp zones is their connection with the stars and the ancient astrophysical stations of light upon the Earth. And if we consider the star fields as giving some mapping of where the Earth's biosphere as a watery prism stands in relationship to given star fields, we will understand why the ancient Egyptian texts refer to Im-sk, and why the Great Pyramid was aligned with Mintaka, which is delta, An-Nalim, which is epsilon, Al-Niltak, which is zeta, in Tak Orion, which is Orionis. These are the central threshold controls, or the region of positive programming used by the Elohim Lords of Light to connect the many galaxies to our Father Universe. Within our galactic quadrant, these threshold controls are necessary in coordinating celestial navigation between universes. Through the energies of Orion, the central threshold control, the higher beings of light move across the waters of the deep. We must also understand the Pleiades cluster as one of the key centers for the propagation of light. The Pleiades in the constellation Taurus is not to be thought of as a separate threshold control for the measurement of planetary systems. But according to Enoch, the Pleiades is a measurement for all key time clocks, all astrophysical temples of measurement. These time clocks on the Earth are located on magnetic grids and focused into the Great Pyramid. Hi, Leon, you're not late. You got here right on time because it's when you got here. Oh, yeah. Could you imagine if you do 2 times on the playback with this? It might sound like a different language. Okay, we see that the Earth is controlled by great geomagnetic energy spokes, and that each energy spoke has within it 12 energy spokes, all interconnected at certain parts of the Earth's star field. Invisible lines of force establish a systematic pattern for the formation of particles of matter and antimatter in the programming and control of individual intelligence. Control? The main lattice formed by these lines of force consists of 30 minutes of arc divisible into 16 smaller grid areas, measured 7.5 minutes of arc by 6 minutes of arc, or 45 square nautical mile units. We're having a math lesson. Okay. Each one of the 12 main lattice areas is controlled by a high-frequency geophysical pyramid. What appears as the physical structure of these time warp areas exists in reality as a twin force of matter and antimatter, which creates a mirror-like image which can be used to alter physical reality to a much higher reality of universal intelligence. This greater reality uses A-line and B-line solar radiational fields to create the vertical and horizontal vertical and horizontal energy cube around the Earth's rotational field. The Brotherhood of Light uses these 12 grids, or vortex Jah, to enable them to come into the Earth's biosphere and build great civilizations to help the consciousness of man understand his divine origin. Enoch explained to me how the Brotherhood of Light first sought to upgrade intelligence upon this planet eons ago, and that the first attempts in recent cycles of time took place in the Taklamakan Desert, where the civilization of Tak was evolved 36,000 years ago and reached over a vast area to what man has called South America. Great city areas were built and seeded with the great technology of the heavens so that man could directly call upon the name of the Lords of Light while living in bodies that were of great light and light molecular density. After this experiment ended in disaster, with the people of light intermarrying with the fallen offspring of the Lords of Light, another experiment was generated in an area of the world known as Atlantis. There, technology was based upon crystalline attunement of the matter and antimatter cycles of the physical and non-physical worlds. By stepping up or slowing down the frequency of energy between two cycles, they could cause a shift in time-space to occur. This, however, ended in failure due to the mixing of genetic codes and factors of light by the fallen Axis Lords of Light, who used their crystalline technology to bring this great civilization of light into war and destruction. The last attempt in generating a higher genetic people took place during the time of Egypt 6,000 years ago, when the great people of Israel with a higher spiritual capacity of Nephesh were implanted to upgrade the peoples of the world by bringing the message of Jehovah and Yahweh's kingdom of light to all nations. So we got some images now. So this is the contact areas for the Brotherhood. You'll see here. Ooh, there we go. So we have major natural time warp areas used by the Brotherhood of Light. Hi, JB Designs. Thank you for coming in. You're not late. You're here right when you got here. That means it's right on time. Hi, Cynical Optimist. Thanks for being here. Adrian says, so what I'm saying is you got to take the horizontalness and apply it to the divine mathematic. No, to the mathematicals. Oh, thank you, Adrian. You sent the $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Okay, so far, this is where her talk is at. And where he's saying these experiments have happened and all ended in disasters. Okay, all three civilizations used pyramids of light, which also exist on higher matter energy planes in the Taklamakan area, the Peruvian area of South America, the Bermuda Triangle area. Oh, that's where he's saying Atlantis is. And the Great Pyramid at Giza. The pyramids were used as initiation points for the vehicles of the dove, those who reign with the Brotherhood of Light. Thus, the return of the dove is directed to the previous initiation points built along pyramidal grids. Pyramidal. I'm sticking with that. Okay. In order for us to understand the present cycle of evolution, we must understand how the brotherhoods are still connected to the pyramid in Egypt as the continuation of Joseph, Moses, and Jesus initiation into the governing of the special species, the Israelites, who were to be the pyramid builders of consciousness for the name of Yahweh, to lead the nations of man away from the false gods of this world as the gathering of the 12 sparks into the brotherhood of light. And Enoch explained to me that just as Egypt represents the mathematical, astronomical, pyramidal foundation of the earth exemplified in the Great Pyramid at Giza, so Israel represents the spiritual capstone of light, exemplified by the peoplehood of Israel, who received the 10 Commandments while traveling through the geophysical pyramid of the Sinai Peninsula. When humanity can find the spiritual Israel within and the knowledge and alignment of the Great Pyramid without, they can place the capstone of spiritual freedom upon the foundations of this world. Thus, we see the ground plan of the physical vortex jaw as the alignment of both Israel and Egypt, which has been used to create the people of Israel, who extend from this vortex jaw unto all of the secondary pyramidal capstones of light and science. When humanity can center the vortex jaw along the magnetic meridians of the Earth, they will see how the Great Pyramid gives the points of survival as well as the points of contact used by the Merkaba vehicles to program the next exodus out of the old meridians of time into the new consciousness space of rebirth within the planispheres. Enoch explained that when mankind opens the pyramid sphinx and uses the consciousness meridians, which connect the 12 energy vortices of the world to the pyramid sphinx, he will have reached a threshold where the energy vehicles can return and take mankind to the next evolutionary station. In fact, the Great Pyramid is built on such a point where the magnetic fields under the Earth, those on the surface of the Earth, and those on the celestial fields all cross so that the fields of alignment are direct. These magnetic fields are aligned through areoles of magnetic energy, which mark the points where energies form outer space, pour into the Earth's surface. These areoles are balanced on the Earth by the magnetic north and south pole. And at the time when tremendous solar flare movements bombard these magnetic points of the Earth, the fields of the Earth will be set in cataclysmic imbalance, spinning the shell of the Earth to new magnetic meridians, which find their balances equatorially. Did you guys know that the poles are shifting right now? It's interesting, huh? And once man understands how the Great Pyramid is a geophysical model for these magnetic changes in the Earth, he will recognize that the pyramid is the actual foundation stone placed directly in the center of the Earth. The ancient astrophysical texts speak of previous geophysical tumbles which happened during great cataclysms when, for example, the area commonly called the Sudan Basin was actually the North Pole. And when we connect the natural magnetic fields with the shifting magnetic fields, we can understand how the natural time warps already exist within different focal points in the Earth's energy index. The higher intelligence coming from a galactic light threshold needs only to draw lines between given vortex jaw on the Earth and moving magnetic vortices in the air streams in order to set in motion all of the spectrum controls necessary to establish their coordinates. Their vehicles establish molecular triangular coordinate patterns in the air as well as on the Earth, which permits them to come into the Earth's field of intelligence. When we understand this, we can see that it is the consciousness of the higher mind that draws lines in between respective sun systems and knows which type of energy meridian to work with. The spiritual higher mind draws lines between the Earth's pyramidal zones existing on the magnetic horizon and its own threshold controls, thus allowing it to intersect the Earth's pyramidal forces with the celestial pyramid, Orion. This activity must take place in order to secure the time warps as points of physical rebirth. When this takes place, the keystone or the pyramid color cap can come down upon the pyramid vortex jaw. For example, the higher intelligence is coming into the ocean through the pyramid 5-energy configuration of the Bermuda Triangle and is making use of the ocean shelf, which is there from the previous Atlantean age, preparing America to become the new Atlantis. These previous Atlantean fields of crystalline energy are being reactivated as centers of energy focus on the planet, which will be used once the Earth's inner core of neutral matter has been heaved up. New Atlantean centers will be activated from the Bermuda Triangle, the Great Salt Sea, and so it says Jerusalem, Hebron, but in Jerusalem, the USA is in all caps, which are already known as pyramid areas by the higher evolution. These areas will be used by the Jerusalem Command from Orion to open the chambers of the Earth and provide for the shifting of consciousness to the Americas, the next home of the dove, as the Father's program shifts from the Middle East to the Middle West. The coming return of the dove will also use artificial time warp areas so as to touch upon the islands of light where the righteous will gather who are not in the natural time warps. They will land upon the sands that were promised Abraham and the prophets of light who speak of the sands of righteousness being carried to higher levels of star intelligence. These landing places are the basin areas which were used by previous cycles of higher intelligence and which contain the documents telling how these areas will be reactivated. Therefore, know the 12 major areas of light, such as the Takla-Makan Basin and Megiddo, which are aligned with the consciousness forces of the Great Pyramid and used by the celestial commands. Onto these 12 areas, cities of light or stations of light technology will come down from the Milky Way, which will be as cities from the Sea of Crystal. For they will be brought down from stations in the heavens, such as Betelgeuse, Orion, a Bethel life station honoring the Father. The higher intelligence will return to such areas as the Takla-Makan Basin, the Ural-Caspian Sea Basin, the Dead Sea Basin, the Basin of the Sahara, the Basin of the Kalahari, and the Salt Lake Basin area, where the programmers originally came to lay the foundations of the deep during previous alpha cycles. The 12 artificial time warp islands of light will be formed out of the oceans and seas as great interlocking circles connected with the polar areas. Their harmonics of light will reveal the ancient lands of the Nephites in the Americas. These will show the overlap where the Brotherhood will land in America to gather the righteous seed. They will come within the formation of a magnificent dove, whose head of crystal knowledge will be over the Yucatan Peninsula, whose wings shall sweep across the danger zones of the eastern and western flank of North America, whose feet will land within the pyramidal area of the Bermuda Triangle and the ocean area near Mazatlan, and whose body will gather the pearls of the communities of the righteous into the heartland of the Ancient of Days. Into all of these areas around the world, technologies of light will come from the Galactic Command in Orion with instructions to help the Adamic race bring peace to the earth. People who are to be brought into these areas will be transfigured to go on with the galactic seed already in the image of the Lamb given in the galactic key of Pleiades. And their seed in the physical flesh will then be like the stars of heaven. They will take the exodus to other star systems in order to begin a new Genesis in the next ordering of creation. At this time, the Great Brotherhood will come to take its own seed. For 20 million years ago, it planted its seed crystals within the galaxy. Okay, so picture. This is the map of the dove that he's talking about. These energy meridians over the Americas. Okay. At intervals of every 6,000 to 12,000 years, the celestial lords of light gather the cultivated seed crystal of evolution left by the original Adamic guardians, who were activated to direct the progeny of Earth. At this point in our consciousness time zone, the celestial lords of light will come back by order of the Galactic Command in Orion, which governs many universes, to save the Adamic seed. They will deliver their seed and the seed of the other nations who wish to be coded into the galactic tree of living light, in the paradise mansion of worlds of the Father. Those who have accepted the Christ seed, the Buddha seed, or any of the lords of light will have within them the active channels of light, which will allow them to function as the Adamic race upon other planetary worlds and in other universes. The world that they will inherit will depend upon the maturity of the soul and the way they have allowed the light to function within them in service to their fellow creation. The key is giving the great promise of the great meeting of space through the Galactic Command, which will take its seed crystal, personified in the Sea of Salt, into the greater Sea of Crystal, where it will be able to be the salt, of other existing universes and the seed crystal of the living word in new worlds. Into these 12 energy fields will move the artificial time warps. As the artificial time warps move over the specific areas, the galactic command will be able to take the physical creation and energize its body into the Adamic structure of the Great White Brotherhood. Now, we talked about that. They mean white as in light. He clarified that. No matter what race or group. See? Okay. The crystalline fields of the 12 Urim and Thummim will be opened and be cleansed, and as the scroll of Revelation says, we will be one with the great white throne in the midst of the earth. The nations of the earth will be saved from war and destruction through the people of light. The people of light will enter all of these energy vortex jaw directed by the Jerusalem command, the higher intelligence from Kesel Orion, controlling the physical energy field now over the present Israel. Now remember, he wrote this in the 70s. These time warp zones are the stepping stones for the Watchmen of Zion. The Watchmen of Zion are being sent into the 12 geophysical time warp areas to proclaim the Leush, but he might be saying Loosh. If you guys have never looked up what Loosh is, do that. Or maybe one of the mods can put in what Loosh actually is, L-O-O-S-H, but he's saying L-A-Y-O-O-E-S-H. But he could be talking about Loosh. The pillar of light, which will come out of the larger artificial time warp areas of light. The Watchers of Zion will move into these areas and code the people from these areas. Those in the physical form, as well as those in other dimensions of intelligence, which have always coexisted with the people of Earth, but who have not been seen by the people of Earth unless they have been polarized by the pillar of light that governs all. For behold, a great sign will be given unto you, which will be the coming of the pyramidal capstone of the Christ light in the skies, which will land upon the pyramidal foundations of the righteous to quicken the living dust of gravitationally trapped light to become new earth. That was a lot. So, again, this reads like the guidebook of the TVA. It totally does. So let's talk about Loki for a second. So in Loki, the TVA is an organization that enforces the sacred timeline, right? Which is actually controlled by He Who Remains. And I've made the connection before between He Who Remains and Hertok's Ancient of Days. Okay? So He Who Remains, though, is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. If you guys haven't watched Loki, I apologize. This is just one way. Stick with. You'll understand all of Loki by the time we get all the way through Hertok. That's for sure. Okay, so for Hertok, there are these higher intelligences guiding the evolution of consciousness on Earth, but also across the entire multiverse. Okay, so their sacred timeline. So in TVA, what they call sacred timeline, Hertok calls consciousness evolution. Okay, He Who Remains has transcended time and space, much like the Ancient of Days transcends this time and space. Okay. Adrian says a hyperdimensional energy that is emitted by the human soul when it is traumatized. Isn't that interesting? That he was talking about the energy. Let's say again what he was saying about Loosh. These time warp zones are the stepping stones for the Watchmen of Zion. The Watchmen of Zion are being sent into the 12 geophysical time warp areas to proclaim the Loosh, the pillar of light, which will come out of the artificial time warp areas of light. Okay. So, um, there's a connection there between he who remains and the Ancient of Days, or also Yahweh in this story. Okay, so we can look at the Ancient of Days as sort of like the Minutemen. If we look at Yahweh in the story, like he who remains. Okay, so we're kind of getting higher in that hierarchy, and probably moving forward we will equate Hertog's Yahweh with the TVA's He Who Remains. Okay. So this key teaches that humanity is not alone in this. Okay. Humanity is not alone in the universe, whether they want to be or not. There are advanced beings who oversee the evolution of human consciousness. They work to ensure that humanity moves towards this higher or light-based state of consciousness, right? Or this higher state of awareness that leads to this light consciousness, okay? So in Loki, he who remains says that he created the TVA to prevent a multiversal war. This is a lot like Hertog saying that these higher intelligences are maintaining this cosmic order to prevent chaos and destruction. Okay. So they keep coming in and doing these experiments to try to advance human consciousness, and it keeps ending up in chaos and destruction. You know, entropy is a thing. Okay. JB Design says this is interesting. Oh, thank you. And Spainman says, greetings. Late to the party I am. That's okay. You're here right when you're here. You can go back and listen. It's totally fine. So, okay. So for those who have watched Loki, I've been pretty general so far. But think about Mobius. Okay. So Mobius is a TVA agent, right? And even Mobius is unaware of the truth until Loki and Sylvie uncover the truth. Okay. So in key 1-0-5, the one that we just read, humanity and its agents, right, are unaware of these higher forces doing these things, right? Guiding consciousness evolution, doing experiments to try to get consciousness to move towards this pillar of light, which may be Loosh, just a little scary to think about. Supposedly we're all unaware of it, right? Just like Mobius and everybody at the TVA is unaware, right? So key 1-0-5 is supposed to be encouraging. It's supposed to encourage us to be like Loki and Sylvie, to challenge the status quo and to seek higher truth. Although in some of this reading, I kind of think we're encouraged to be like Loki and Sylvie in totality. if we're making those leaps, okay? So think about it like this. If the TVA is like a school, you know, it's like a school structure, then he who remains is the principal, right? He's the one that's in charge and he's guiding all of this stuff, but everybody in the school doesn't get to know the bigger picture, right? So key 1-0-5 gives us this motivation to graduate the school and not go to that school no more. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So this, if you guys know Maslow's hierarchy, it kind of reminded me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs a little bit, which I've talked about in other videos. Maybe somebody can put in a link to Maslow's, but Maslow was somebody who said you really can't think about things for yourself the more needs you have. So like if you're starving and don't have a place to live, you're not thinking about where am I going to go to school next year and I hope I fall in love. You know, you want food, you want shelter, and it goes up and up and up until you eventually reach transcendence, right? Through this, or ascension. I think he calls it ascension, right? Now, Maslow equates ascension to money, unfortunately, because as you have more and more needs met and you get to play a lot more, we live in a capitalist society. That means a lot of money. And unfortunately, I just don't see that. I think people can ascend and have epiphanies and do all kinds of things regardless of their need. But it kind of reminded me of Maslow's hierarchy and ascending, to transcendence. Also reminds me of in metaphysics, they talk about the veils of illusion. And so it's sort of like, which are just, it's a bunch of red pills. If you guys know the idea of red pills, where there are certain illusions that you have this epiphany and the veil is removed as you get closer and closer to the truth. So it does make me think, though. None of this sounds like free will is a thing, right? If they're guiding the whole thing, if they're free will was a big thing in the TVA, right? So if we're being guided by these higher forces, do we even have any power to shape our destiny? I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think you have power to shape your destiny, or is like it's all predestined? There's some higher force, there's some God, there's something that just has control of all of us and is gonna put the bumpers on and make us end up wherever we're supposed to end up. I'd be interesting to know what you guys think about that. Or do you think we're actually on our own and there's nobody? Nobody cares. There's no higher intelligence, no God, no nothing. That we're just on our own trying to hold it together, white knuckling it, through life. If there's a TVA type force that's controlling our timelines, right? Our multiverse, because her talks about the multiverse. If there's this TVA type force controlling our timelines, does it make you want to rebel? Because like I just mentioned a little bit ago, it kind of starts making me think we need to be more like Sylvie and Loki than just ascending, but maybe fighting against some of this stuff, because it sounds very controlled and predestined and those kind of things, which gives me a little bit of reactance, Oh, you want to control my life? That makes me feel rebellious. And so many times that we hear from different spiritual gurus that to find the higher intelligences or to find your truth, to find these things, you have to go inward. But all this control outward just, I don't know, it just feels weird during this key. It feels pretty controlling during this key, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. But what steps are you taking to get to a greater truth? Let me know in the comments. And maybe it's that because we all get together on Pivot Point Wednesday and we, talk and learn about these things, and we're going through the book of knowledge to try to figure out what's going on with that. But you guys are the best tribe on YouTube, because you you allow me to do this, which is great. So shout out to the best live tribe on YouTube and to the replay gang. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday. This coming Sunday, we're going to talk about who the Goths are, because there may be an interesting connection to the Shasu, which we talked about last Sunday. So I hope you can make it. If not, I'll see you guys next Sunday for the next key. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not soteric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, You'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together. Bye.